So
We're
excited.
late.
I'm so excited. We are, no, Selena's late, not we. Selena is late. I
It
promise everyone
happens.
it was me. It was 100% me. Late getting here because Menno Brain had me with my times wrong. So I'm here and I apologize for keeping people waiting. So,
No worries. No one's
hey,
on. No one's on yet, but I just
that's okay.
posted it. I just posted
Okay.
it on LinkedIn. Do I sound okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, because I thought I was getting feedback. So,
No.
hello everyone. I am Trudie German. I am a perimenopausal coach, and I have the beautiful Selena here with me. And Selena is an over 50 digital creator, and she is amazing. Her style is fabulous. And we are going to be talking about menopause. She's going to be sharing from her experience and then mine from a bit of the professional side.
Exactly.
So, Selena,
Yes.
you are over 50. Are you perimenopausal or are you full menopausal? Which is it?
Full. I'm full
Full menopause.
menopausal. Yeah.
Okay.
Full menopausal. Um, and yeah, full, straight
Full.
up.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I love to define things because I also realize menopause is one of those words that is just thrown around. So
Yes.
there's perimenopause. So menopause is once you've gone 12 consecutive months without a period. After that, boom, menopause. So menopause is kind of like a moment. Everything after that is post
Yeah.
menopause. Leading up to that, it's perimenopause, and that can last anywhere from 2 to 15 years.
Yeah.
It varies from woman to woman, and you can start as early as late 30s and as late as even into your 50s. So there's no specific age. So I
Right.
just wanted to define that.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna make sure that I share with everyone that we're on. To remind everyone because I was late, so people might be late because I was late. Hold on.
okay, no problem.
Let's get the people. Let's get the people. Let's get the people because it's interesting. I'm so sorry again. And I think that that's the biggest issue is that people are confused about post and peri, and because it is a bit confusing. It is confusing for people what they're going through. And again, and I agree with what you're saying. I think a lot of people do believe that it is defined by an age. So a lot of people think, that if you're younger, you can't be going through it. So we're gonna get this right. So I know that some people, 35, can go through it. I know I was on a panel with a celebrity that talked about going through it at 35 years old, and that
Mhm.
was a big deal for her to know that because most people don't know that.
So I'm curious. At what age did you become postmenopausal, and when did you realize you were even going through perimenopause?
So 48 years old, I started the process where it was like 3 months, no period. And I'm like, okay, it's happening. It's okay. And then the next thing I knew, then I would have a cycle, and then I would have my period, and then it would start all over again. Because what you said in the beginning, what my doctor expressed, like you said, it has to be 12 consecutive months. It's not like an actual year. It's 12 consecutive months. So when I had that period after 3 months, then it starts all over again. So then I am not yet in. And then once that kept happening a few times. I had a FSH, the follicle stimulating hormone test, and
Mhm.
the range was like 9. It's over. So that's when I knew that is now we have gone to the other side. We are no longer. There's no. I can't have any more children. And that was a blow. Honestly, that was a blow to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I found it interesting that your doctor was able to test because what I've also found is that a lot of doctors, they'll simply dismiss you and be like, they'll simply dismiss you and say things like, hold on. They'll simply dismiss you and say, you're too young. Hold on, let me block this troll.
No,
Sorry.
you should leave Freddie Daniel because Freddie Daniel obviously doesn't have a mommy or a sister or auntie or anybody that he would understand. Nobody said they wanted to have children, Freddie. You should probably go over to one of the other channels that's talking about maybe penile dysfunction or those kind of things, Freddie, because you have a lot of time on your hands.
I love it, love it. So a lot of doctors won't even test depending on certain age because they're like, well, you're too young. Because I have clients and I have friends where, when they started experience certain things like irregular periods and swollen breasts and hot flashes, their
Right,
doctor dismiss them and be like, hey, you don't, you're too young for it. And I
yeah,
and I'm so happy that your doctor listened to you and was able to test you. When you said that a lot of people don't know the difference between menopause and perimenopause and postmenopause,
right,
I was one of those persons because I never heard about perimenopause or postmenopause. I've
right,
always heard about menopause, and my perception of it was you simply miss a month's period, you're not pregnant, and that's it. So
right,
when I started doing more research and I realized, okay, so it has to be 12 consecutive months. Okay, so menopause is simply a moment. So, when women are like, it's I'm in menopause, I'm like, you don't know when you're not in menopause. You don't
right.
know you're there.
It's either before or after. It's either one or the other.
Exactly.
Right. Most people
Right?
don't know that.
Prior to getting here, what did you know about it? And what was your experience like? What did you think it would be? What perception did you have of it? And when you actually got there, you're like, oh, okay, this is different.
So, my perception was what, you're just going to have a hot flash and you're going to be fine. Like, you're going to just, there'll be a few hot flashes and you'll be like, oh, and we'll be fine. What I started experiencing was the extreme horrific night sweats. So I had extreme night sweats and the worst sleep. Like my sleeping was really bad. I couldn't stay asleep. I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I also noticed that clearly the obvious was the period. So we're not having that anymore. And then and at this point, it's like 5 months going on. And that's when I knew. So the period was the biggest thing, of course. But then I started noticing all these little things like I'm not sleeping, I'm having these terrible night sweats, and I am aching, like everything hurts, like these terrible body aches, these terrible um, kind of soreness that I didn't understand what it was. I am lucky that my doctor was knowledgeable and willing to talk to me about it, and actually a male. So that was something that I was lucky for because my grandmother was one of those people that was like, I didn't have anything. It wasn't bad, not bad.
We really have some trolls here.
I'm confused by abortion.
That's what I'm like. What's going on here? Like, Patrick, do you not understand what we're talking about, Patrick? Like,
It's okay. I guess this is what people do on YouTube. They just wait for somebody to go live and then they are. I mean, we're talking
okay,
about menopause. Nobody's talking
we're
about
talking about
abortion.
menopause. We're not talking about abortion,
Hey,
Patrick.
sorry,
So I
Patrick.
don't know what's going on there.
I'm for Christ too, Patrick. I have 3 children. No, nobody's talking about this. So
Patrick,
it's a
you
lot
okay?
of cleaning up. It's a lot of
You
cleaning
okay,
up. It's a lot of
Patrick?
cleaning up going on.
And you're talking about your doctor, and I I have an amazing doctor also, but I was so amazed. I was shocked, to be honest. One, the amount of doctors that know little to nothing
Nothing.
about perimenopause and how to treat
Absolutely.
the woman.
Absolutely.
And two, how many doctors simply dismiss women and be like, you're in perimenopause, you're menopause, this is how it's supposed to be, deal with it. I'm
That's
like,
it.
wait,
That's it.
what?
There's no, they'll pretend like there's no medication for it. There's nothing for it that you can use. There's nothing to give you. It's just a part of life. They will literally dismiss you. And I will say this: I remember going to, unfortunately, my doctor that I've had for years that delivered my children, all of my children, when he retired. So referred me to another doctor, and I'll never forget. I go to the doctor, a new doctor, and he's very pleasant and stuff. And he's looking at the chart, and he's like, I said, my sleeping is horrific. Like I'm moody. I'm having a really hard time. And I'll never forget. He opened a drawer and pulled out a supplement. And I'm sure they're a lovely company. I don't know them. He pulled out a supplement and he says to me, all the ladies say this works. And it was that moment that I no longer went back to him. I had to find another doctor because there are things that can help you. And I know that one of the biggest things that they talk about is everybody's like either they have a hot flash or they have vaginal dryness. I had hot flashes. I didn't have that, more than we care to know. Patrick's going to have a nervous breakdown. But the biggest issue was that my libido, it affected libido. So I don't want it. But they don't talk about that there's things for that. So again, and what we talked about before is that a lot of doctors have not there's no training for it. In 2024, there's still no training for to help women deal with menopause, or the knowledge of menopause, or that there's not just 5 symptoms, that there's over 80. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And what I also found was that I found it interesting that most of the studies were done on men. How are you doing studies on men about women when our bodies are different? What we're experiencing, they're not experiencing it. So how is that fair? For myself, when I entered perimenopause 3 years ago, it was hell, because I'm like, my idea, my perception of menopause was that, as I said, boom, you may experience a few moodiness,
Right.
missed periods, hot flashes, and then that's it, right?
That's it.
But then when I realized, okay, when I stepped out into the sun, and I love the sun, the way my skin was tender because of
Like
the sun,
reacting. Mm-hmm.
the reaction to it, the insomnia, that was when I was like, okay, something is wrong, because normally when I hit the bed, I am gone. And I remember there was some nights I would literally be crying and praying before I go to bed, God, please let me
Let me
sleep
sleep.
through the night, because I would sleep no matter what time I went to bed. I would be up 2 to 3 hours later. I would toss and turn. And
Yep.
then when it would be time to get up, that's when I would want to go to sleep. And the rest of the day was like a blur. Because when you don't get
Exactly.
enough sleep,
Exactly.
when you're not getting enough sleep, your brain doesn't have time to recover. The brain fog is real. You're
Yep.
experiencing moodiness, anxiety. It's
Yes.
just like, it was
Yes.
horrible.
It's
And I
hard. You
remember
can't
thinking,
function.
yeah, and I remember thinking, hold on, this can last anywhere from 2 to 15 years. I cannot live, I can't make it. I'm like, I can hardly make it right now, let
Right.
alone another 2 to 15 years.
Right.
So, something that I have found with working with clients and more research is, the more stressful your lifestyle is, the more severe your perimenopausal symptoms. So the
Absolutely.
stress could be coming from finances, it could be coming from work, it could be coming from taking care of aging parents, it could be taking
Yeah.
care of children, it could be so many aspects. So I
Right.
found that once you start finding ways to manage your stress, because life's gonna life, stress ain't going nowhere, I found that a lot of those symptoms dissipate, right? And in terms of the supplement, a lot of doctors give supplement. And I know some women When I have consultation with women, they're like, "Oh, do you use ashwagandha? Do you recommend it?" This is my take on any supplement. They're supplements. So if you have not made lifestyle changes, it doesn't matter what you're taking, they're not going to work. You
That's that's
can't
important.
You're not going to be able to sleep through the night if you haven't find ways to manage your stress. You're going to take you're going to take the supplements and say they're not working and want something else, but you also haven't done your part for
Yes,
it to
that's
work,
important.
right?
That's
So
important. Yeah.
ladies, remember that you have to find ways to manage your stress
Yes.
for it to work. Patrick, we're talking about menopause here, Patrick. Come on, Patrick, get it together. If you're gonna comment, get it together, sir. Get it together. Like,
Well, you know what? We're going to segue into Patrick. Patrick made a very good point. Women, put your children first and make sure that their father puts you first. One of the things that's important for people when they are going through menopause is their partner, whatever your partner is that, you have to be able to have an understanding of yourself and what you're going through so that your partner can be there for you. And the fact that it's not discussed more. Anyone that's born with ovaries, you're going to go through menopause, and that's a fact. And it doesn't matter what side of what fence you're on. That is a fact, and it's something that should be taught, and the information should be more readily available because it's very important, and it's very scary. And the way that you start to look at yourself, the way you feel about yourself, for someone who's their entire life were a size 2 and could eat whatever, and then you wake up one morning and you have a menno belly that looks like you're 4 or 5 months pregnant. That's startling to you because you've
mhm.
lived a certain way, that your metabolism has slowed down, that you have no breast density, your skin is dry, your skin is slack, your hair is falling out. All of these things, besides the actual physical part of it, it affects your appearance. And as much as we don't want to pretend that we're vain and we don't care what we look like, whatever they do, it's not true. It's debilitating, and it's scary, to go through that and to experience that because you're not used to it. You're not used to it. So that's a big deal. On top of the more serious things like moodiness, like depression, like lethargy, like insomnia, like all of these things can kind of hurt you physically and mentally. It's a big deal. It's a big life change because it's a huge chapter of your life that has closed and now opened.
And a chapter you're not really prepared for because
No.
there's no knowledge. So it's kind of like you're thrown in the dark and
Oh
trying to
my
figure
God.
it
Oh my
out,
God. Well, and
right?
I am 53, and there's generations above me that absolutely I didn't even I had nothing. It was fine. I don't even remember. And you're like, this can't be the same menopause that I'm having is what you had. That is absolutely not possible. That is not possible. And I've talked about this before. When I was lucky enough when I met Eddie, when I met Eddie, I had 3 children. Eddie never had any children. And he used to say something that was the sweetest thing ever. He's like, I wish we met when we were younger so we could have had children. We would have liked to have children. And that was the biggest part for me, that I loved having children. I loved being able to have children and to have someone say to me, like, not that they took my right away, but to say to me that that was no longer an option was devastating to me because
Hmm.
I had to really, for me, I had to look at my mortality. That's what it made me look at, not like, oh, you can't have any more children. It's like, oh, like you're getting older. You're really good, and not that it can't happen at any age. I know people 35. I know people who have medically induced menopause because of health concerns or whatever. But for me, it was you old lady. It really was. It really took me out. I'm like,
It was like the choice was taken from you. You could no longer make that choice if you wanted
yeah,
it or not.
yeah. No, it's hard. It's heartening. It really put a new spin on it that I wasn't prepared for. I was like, this is it. That the shop is closed, like my grandmother would say.
So, in response to what you said, like when the woman before us said, they didn't experience it, I asked two things. I'm like, is it that you didn't go through it, or you just came from an era, a generation where they didn't talk about it, so you kind of
100%.
also block it out of sight, out of mind?
Mhm.
Or was it because they didn't have as much stress and disturbance and interruption as us?
I,
Because
I, I think it is the latter. I think it's the latter. I think absolutely not. I think they had as much stress, but
they didn't
I'm
talk about
35.
anything. They
We
didn't
were
talk
not, we
about
were,
anything. Everything was a taboo.
but right, you weren't allowed to. So you could have the same amount of stress. You and Mister could be having a problem, or the finances was always a problem, or you could have anything going on, but you weren't allowed to talk about it. So for them, I think it was more of a more of a taboo. We're not going to talk about it. And this my generation and younger women in our 50s and stuff now, we do have a voice. We might whine more than others, but we do have a voice to express it, and it's helpful to other people. But absolutely, that generation is all like, I, it was nothing. I don't remember. I was nothing. But they were taught to not complain. You're not supposed to bring these concerns up. It's not supposed to be the focus on you. It's supposed to be focused on your home and your family and your children. Whatever you're going through, deal with it. And I'll never forget. I was younger. I was 9 years old. We had a neighbor that I thought was the most beautiful woman ever. And I remember one summer, she started wearing, we always have long maxi sundresses. That's the staple of the summer. Every lady owns one, every female owns one. And I remember she would wear the dresses and she would belt them and pull them up very short and off the shoulder and doing these things. And I heard the ladies talking. So she ended up having, like, developing menopausal psychosis. Like, she became very provocative. She became, it was like, I think that people don't understand. It's a thing. So I started wearing my dresses like that. I got a beating because I thought it was cute. And my mom was like, stop packing it. Stop doing that. You're not supposed to do that. But I didn't understand. And so, and this woman ended up having to go and be put into a psychiatric hospital. She had to actually had a nervous breakdown, what they called it back in the day, because
Hmm.
it is just extremely unimaginable. And I think that's some of the things that menopause does is exacerbate other things that you have going on. I think
It
it's
does.
just okay.
And I think also going through that and not having an outlet, someone to
No,
talk to help you, you're kind of suffering in silence. So of course you're gonna feel like,
absolutely.
you're going cray cray. And this is why I definitely use my platform. I've had people message me and said, no one care. No, you don't care because it doesn't impact, it doesn't have an impact on you yet. But
Right,
the woman who are going through it, the women who feels as if their body's attacking them, they don't understand. The women
right,
who are experiencing symptoms that no one talk about. For example, we mentioned there are over 80 symptoms. One of them is feeling as if you have a metallic taste in your mouth. Next one is smelling things burning when nothing's actually burning, smelling smoke,
interesting.
experiencing bleeding gums, experiencing BO, experiencing incontinence, which is you're out and you sneeze and you pee, right? There's so many other things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I have a question here. One of the questions that someone asked was, she mentioned that lately I have been dripping small trinkle of pee in my underwear. Is this a menopausal thing or should I be doing my Kegels? This may be a perimenopausal thing. And I say may because, once again, I'm not a doctor. But I do know this is one of the symptoms because at this stage, what is happening is the drop in estrogen and progesterone, which are not just for sex hormones, they also line or
Exactly,
pelvic area and
exactly,
it's getting
exactly.
thinner. So if it's
Right. So
getting thinner, the
the
pee
pelvic
is
floor
easier
is,
to
yeah,
come out,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely,
So this can
absolutely.
be one of the symptoms. And for something like this, I would say first check with your doctor. to rule out other things. And then, of course, you can start doing core exercises because core
Sure.
workout definitely help, and deep breathing exercise. Like there's so many other different
That
symptoms, right?
people are not, they're not really aware of. And again, like I lost breast density, or like you say, is this normal? Is this normal? There's women that say I had no libido. There's women that say that they increase their sex drive. So there's not one size fits all. And I think that people need to understand that, and it's okay, and to be able to talk about that. And I think that one of the things that I'm so grateful about is that over the last few years, so I've been going through it since I'm 40. I was 48. I'm 53. So the last 5 years, the surge in information and insight and discussion about it is been astronomical. It really
Mhm.
has. And again, what we talked about before is that the fact that on a lot of publications, Facebook and stuff, they still won't let you say certain words. You can't say vaginal. You can't. They don't want you to talk about menopause. You can talk about penile dysfunction. You can talk about Viagra. And the perfect segue to that is that most people don't know that there is female Viagra. There is things that you can
Mhm.
do for yourself. But I think that I hope that the takeaway from this evening is the most important thing is what you said. With anything, if there is female Viagra or whatever, there are supplements, but I think that what people need to know is you do need to change your lifestyle, because the 30-year-old me that could go and eat whatever and do not have to worry about exercise, that lady is no longer with us. She just isn't, and I'm okay with that. But people need to understand that you do need to make these lifestyle adjustments the same way you would if you were pregnant, or the same way if you would when you first started getting your period. You have to make adjustments to the new version of yourself. And so for somebody who's going through it and going through um, like having the belly fat and dealing with those kind of things, like a little incontinence, like the sneezing and the laughing and you got a little dribble, what are some things that you could suggest to someone that could start doing, like some basic lifestyle changes that we could start off right off the bat?
One thing I would suggest, start drinking more water. We don't realize the importance of water, and especially so if you're experiencing hot flashes and night sweats, you're losing water, right? Because you're sweating. So then if you haven't replenished that, the next day you're going to experience more hot flash, more night sweat, and it continue, right? And getting water is also a challenge because sometimes we often don't realize that we need water. That's
Right,
why I
right.
keep mine close and keep sipping.
Yeah,
Definitely one, getting water. Two, start having movements in your day. Like I love going for walks. I encourage walks because then the movement will help you to have more energy. And when you have more energy, you're going to take care of yourself. And also physical activity in the day may help you to sleep better at night. And as you know, sleep is a huge thing. But the problem with getting movement in is when you already have no energy. When you have no energy, you're
that's why I
like,
was late. I was
okay,
taking a nap.
it, yeah, it's like, is this a pyramid scheme? Because I need energy to walk or to go do the physical activity. Then it's going to give me energy. But how can I start when I don't have any energy? This
Yeah.
is my response to that.
Okay.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. Bring your phone, make a phone call, go for a walk. While you're talking to a friend, go for a walk. 5 minutes.
Mm,
If you live in a house, walk up and down the stairs. 5 minutes. I don't want anyone to tell me they don't have 5 minutes. You
absolutely.
do.
Absolutely.
Park
Hmm.
a little further. It's summer now. Go outside. You ever notice when you go outside in the sun how much you feel better?
That's true.
The
I've noticed that.
vitamin D, the vitamin D. I make time for the sun
Vitamin
because
D.
it does make a difference. I live in Toronto, so that's not happening in January and December,
That's
right?
okay. That's okay. That's okay. We're gonna get it when we can get it. Okay.
Exactly. So definitely, and also what makes you happy? Being around. I think what also happened is we stop playing as we get older. I have two nephews, a 6-year-old and a 6-month-old. And when I'm around them, you see how carefree they are and they're just playing. But as adults, we stop playing because we're adults. We need a
Right.
hobby. We need things that make us feel good. We need to be
Yep.
around people at some point to make us
Right.
feel good. Those things are important and also part of our self-care journey, right?
Right. And I do know that, like, and I agree with you. I think that, and I, I think for me, the initial shock of it, not being able to have children, and the whole fact that this was a change, and but there are some benefits of it, and so I think that in anything in life, I think if you find the joy in the situation, the joy of it, because again, I didn't want any more children. I had already had three. I did, but when somebody said you couldn't, I was like, that's stupid. But then it was like, well, this is good because I can't have any more children. There has to, you have to, it's the benefits, the good. You have to look at the silver lining. So I think that you do have to you do have to find the joy in anything in life that you're going through, and I think that's absolutely true. We do lose that, the innocence and the carefree and the joy, and like you said, it takes nothing to move for 5 minutes. It really
5 minutes. 5 minutes. And
we all
it's
have
so
it.
funny. It's so sorry. I just lost my train of thought about.
That's because it's menopause. That's because it's menopause.
I should have. That's why I like taking notes.
But I will say this: this is perfect. I think people don't, because maybe the nature of the name. Brain fog is a real thing. It's a real thing.
Worse when you haven't slept. So imagine, as you said, that was one of the big things. And so many women have left the corporate world. They have left their jobs. They have taken a demotion because they felt unqualified. And
Right.
they can't go in and speak to their HR or their boss because 90% of the bosses are male. And how do I
They don't
go
have a
in and
clue.
say,
They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. So how am I
and they're
supposed to
not
go in and
trying,
say,
they're not trying to
no,
understand because you
no, no,
start
no.
bringing it up, it's like, oh, women problem, oh, but it's not a
Right,
woman problem because guess
right.
what we're going through, it's going to affect the men around us, it's going to affect everyone around us, so it's not a woman problem. Oh, I
No.
just remember what I was going to say. When you say find the good, whenever women tell me that perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause suck, this is always my response: the fact that you've lived long enough to experience it, it is a blessing because not many women have lived to experience it. You're here now. Let's find a way for you to,
Rock and
let's
roll.
figure out how we can, it's not going anywhere, the menopause,
Right.
perimenopause. So let's figure out how we can have you navigate it with grace and ease because it is possible, right? The
Of
thing
course.
is, lifestyle changes have to happen, and a lot of people aren't prepared to do that.
No.
They want they want to keep the same lifestyle, but yet still get rid of some of the symptoms. It don't work like that, and it doesn't matter what kind of medication you go on, what kind of supplement. If you do not make the lifestyle changes, you are wasting your time. That's it, right?
And I think that the part about what I've said before is that I wish that they taught it like as sex education, and it's just for that reason. If you can prepare for something, the
Hmm.
outcome is better. So if you say, when you're telling young ladies about tampons and your period and having a baby and talking about smegma and all this nonsense in school, if you would say to them, and N possibly from age such and such, that can all change. And so you can prepare us, because literally you're just living your life and you're just walking around, and all of a sudden you're like, where's my period? And not
Yeah, but
like,
you see,
where's my
Selena,
period? Where's my period? Not like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. Like, where's my period? My period doesn't, like, literally, that's how it happens. So you're shocked. So I think that if you had some preparation, like you said, it could, let's start doing some more movement. Let's start, eating better, drinking more water, take care of yourself, because it's coming. It's
it's
like a train. It's coming. So It's a big deal.
See, you mentioned that where's your period? For me, when I started, it was like, hold on, how you here already? And then when I went back, I'm like, you were here 19 days ago. You have another nine. Then then 7 days. It's like, no, 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 no. What's going on here? That was what was happening for me. It was literally,
Okay.
I I wasn't like, where's my period? Mine was like, why you here again? You
Wow.
were just here last week. There was 1 month I got it in 3 times. One time I got
That's
it in,
insane.
and I was like, no, 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 no. And that's another one of the symptoms, the change
Right.
in period. It may become irregular, it may become
Right.
heavier, it may become
Oh,
lighter.
mine was horrific. It was so heavy, so bad. It was
Hmm.
so it wouldn't come for like I would be like, okay, it's month three, all right, and then month four, it's like I'm unconscious. I'm in the bed, like it is so
Vengeance.
heavy. I am, and I'm already anemic, and I'm just literally now I'm worse. I'm not sleeping. I have this terrible, horrific period. It was it can be nightmarish. Okay, it can be nightmarish because you're confused. Either I was on time. I could 28 days at 4 o'clock. It's coming. I know, like it was like clockwork. So when it started to not come, I'm like, oh, this is it. And then it was like, psych, here it is. I'm gonna give you all 3 months in one, and
Yep.
I'm like you're at high school, like making sure you have a bag with you because it's gonna come through your damn jeans. It was wild. It was wild.
Exactly. And speaking of that, ladies, yes, you may become pregnant. You can still get pregnant during
Yeah,
perimenopause. So I'm letting you know that. So do with it as you wish.
exactly. Being careful because it absolutely can happen. And I had expressed before to Trudie that my uncle was considered a menopause baby. My grandmother had him at 54 because it was like, I'm not, I'm done, I'm done. And it snuck right in. And it
It
happens. It happens all the time. It happens all
happens
the
all the
time.
time
Um,
because a
I
lot
mean,
of women don't know the meaning of it, and they go 1 or 2 months and they think, oh, I'm in menopause, I can't get pregnant. Then it's like, oh crap,
psych,
oh yeah.
psych, psych.
Surprise.
Now I'm 63 at junior high graduation because I was
Rolling in, your pampers need to
right,
be
right.
changed.
Well, who's gonna change both of us? That's what I used to say to Eddie all the time. I mean, he's like, I wish we could have a baby. I'm like, I'm 53 and you're 63. Who's gonna change all our Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So
Right.
yeah, it absolutely can happen. It absolutely can happen. And I had changes in my gums. I had changes in my eyes were dry. My skin has always been dry. So I say to the oily skin girls, embrace it because you're gonna need that moisture because the hormones are the ruler of your whole body. Those hormones and that estrogen and all of that leaving you for the warmer climate is gonna knock your socks off. So my hair fell out, my skin is dry, my breast density, my I was more hairy some places and less hair on my head. And I remember growing up and we had a neighbor, a lot of neighbors, and she had chest hair,
Oh.
and she had more testosterone than some. So
Hmm.
your hormones are out of whack, and that's a
Wow.
big
Yep.
deal. So tell me your thoughts on hormone therapy.
Hormone therapy, it's one of those things that's very controversial. Um, that is something that I usually recommend that women discuss directly with their doctor, because
Yeah,
it depends on your medical history and your family's medical history. Because there's hormone therapy, and then there's hormone replacement therapy. So it
right.
depends on what you're going through, your family history, that your doctor may recommend it. Here's the thing with that, it's also a supplement. So if you still have not made lifestyle changes and
Absolutely.
you take either one of them, your symptoms may remain the same or exacerbate, because once again, you have to make lifestyle changes. It's not just a quick fix thing, right?
Okay.
Changes have to be made for you to feel different and experience the difference?
So I think that basically, again, another takeaway should be that there are definitely external options, but the main thing is to try to start working within to help you to kind of navigate this, to maybe do some more movement, to do some exercises, changing your diet, changing what you drink. Like I'm so I know people like are very into they like a sweet or a salty. I'm a salty girl. So a salty
Mhm.
girl of menopause, a dry ass, a thirsty ass is not a good thing. So you got to change your diet. Let's calm down. Besides other things, high blood pressure is not good for you. But it's all of it is again because now this is this internal pot heating up all day to have me with salt and heat, and now at the middle of the night I'm sweating and thirsty and I can't sleep. That's a crazy thing. And I remember I went to started going to acupuncture because of being sore and doing all of that. And one of the things that he talked about again was lifestyle changes. And again, I was like, my sleeping is bad and whatever. And he was like, you need to make sure you eat before you go to before you go to bed. Not immediately before you go to bed, but make sure you have a protein. Make sure you eat the right thing. Because one of the things was I was waking up in the middle of the night starving because I wasn't eating as much because I don't want to. I had this huge ass mental belly. So it was like he's like, no, that we're not gonna not eat. You gotta have some food. He's like, you eat the right thing, and it'll help you to get a better night's sleep. It'll help you to kind of regulate yourself because if I'm eating, fries before bed, maybe that's
No,
not the best
that's
thing
not good.
because it's so I'm having a little rice and a little chicken, some protein, and getting all of that in. It's helping. So there are many things you can do: lifestyle changes, dietary changes, physical changes, movement, getting outside,
Yep.
and I guess finding the joy is very important.
Yes. And when you were mentioning the dry hair and the dry skin, what usually contributes to that a lot is the lack of protein, because what a lot of us
Yeah,
don't realize is our hormones are needed for everything in the body to communicate, right?
yeah,
Protein helps make those hormones. So if we're not getting enough protein, we're not making enough hormones,
crazy.
we can't communicate. So
It's a vicious,
if they
vicious
can't
cycle.
communicate, everyone's it's just a
A
hot
mess.
mess. Right.
It's a
So
hot
that's
mess.
one of the things that when I work with women, I make sure that yes, we're getting protein, we're getting enough protein. And even with when women come to me, a lot of them have been doing intermittent fasting, and it may
Yeah,
have worked at the beginning, but when you get to perimenopause and your body's already stressed, it is not your
yeah,
friend. So, any lady listening up to this, if you're doing intermittent fasting and you're gaining the belly, please take yourself off of it. Because if you have not had enough food to eat, first of all, you will not be sleeping properly through the night. Because in the night, your blood sugar level is going to drop,
yep.
you're going to wake up, and it's going to be a hot mess.
Sure, sure. And I was definitely experiencing that because what I was doing was counterintuitive because I'm thinking if I eat less, I won't have this mental belly, but I was not sleeping. So I was keep, keeping all of that mental belly. I was stressed. I was tired.
Yep.
I was miserable because it's all a vicious cycle. And I feel like the hormones are like kind of like the gas in the car. You make sure the oil is like the blood. You can't start the car without it. You got the engine, but you're not going to go far if you don't have any gas. So I feel like your hormones are the gas. Like you have to keep the
They
hormones
are.
going and flowing. It really makes a difference. It really
It
makes a difference. And
does.
I learned that the hard way because again, this was me navigating a version of myself I didn't know and getting this little piecemeal information when I first started almost 6 years ago to try to figure out what is going on. And I'm lucky my mother is very honest. If I ask her, she'll be like, oh, I think I had, or I don't remember, or maybe I did. But her generation, most of them know. They don't give us anything. We don't have the tools that we need. And luckily, um, a lot of brands are putting out information like on their website, like Stripes and such. You go on their website and there's communities talking about it. So we're grateful that there's people like you talking about it and me talking about it and anyone that even is able to say the word. And I'll never forget I was at an event at a place. There's a company called Her MD. Her MD is run by two sisters. One is a doctor, and they opened facilities in New Jersey. I'm in New York, New Jersey, and I was lucky enough to go there. And they offer all kinds of services. Like there's, tools to if you do have vaginal dryness, if you do have vaginal pain, if you do want to have a discussion about HT, if you do want to have a discussion about what you're going through, if you do need, your doctor is like, there's nothing for that. When there is that, things for that. And I'll never forget, we were there, and it was like the opening, and it was like a cocktail party, and one of the young ladies that was the sweetest, that organized and invite us creators. And she was like, today is not, I don't feel good. I'm not, it's not, I'm just off. And I'll never forget, she leaned over and she said, because I'm having my period. And I said, why are we whispering that still in 2023? So it's it's still, I have my period, or
still taboo.
Or right, or the curse, like my family called it the change. Like you're going through the change, like the change of life, and it's still a shame and a shocker that we're still kind of whispering these things when it's by no fault of my own. I was just born with ovaries. I have no choice. This is the card I was dealt, and I shouldn't be ashamed, and we shouldn't be ashamed about it.
Exactly. And it's so funny you mentioned in the beginning about, Viagra's being for women. We've all seen and heard Viagra commercials for men.
Our entire lives.
When or where have you ever heard one for women, for their version?
They will absolutely not. They're not going to do it.
I see it all over.
They're not going to do it.
Right?
Not going to do it. And the fact that they fast tracked putting through Viagra, like the Federal Food and Drug Administration rushed it through. And for women, the medication for women took months. And what we discussed before, who are the men going to use it on if there's women are not in the mood? What are we going to do with these hard-ons for hours and they're not bothered? What am I going to do with that? So
exactly.
the logic is still not there. The logic is still not there. And it's such a shame that we've made such advances, but we're still so, in the dark ages about women's health. It's really a shame. Still in the dark ages. So I'm hoping that people will look back on this and get some insight, or look back and want to do it again. And we're going to take it over to Instagram too. We're going to take it everywhere, because this is my first time on live on YouTube. It's a little spicy crowd.
All right, darling. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me, Selena.
Sorry, so late. I am hoping
that's okay.
Back, Trudie. We're going to do it again.
Yes, we will. All right, darling.
Okay,
have a great one.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.